Helping me out here. Okay. So while we go live today, I hope all of you guys have your journals out because we are coming to the close of chapter 7, and we're going to be actively talking about. While we go live let me. Today, we're going to actively talk about all of the things that you can do to. Hold on. Let me. There we go. All of the things that you can do to help deal with the matters of the ego. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And everybody joining me on YouTube, hello everyone. I have put a link in here about my book club Inner Circle. So if you have been enjoying everything that I've been talking about in my book club, and I'll put it also in the chat here. If you've been enjoying what we've been talking about and you want to go a little deeper and have access to the recordings of the book club, you can definitely go visit my website and click on that link, and you can sign up for the Inner Circle, and you'll have access to all of the book club videos that I've done. There are dozens and dozens of information and hours of tools that will help you be an adult in relationships. Who knew it was going to take a lifetime to get through this book to learn how to be an adult in relationships? So I think it is great. A lot of you guys are already doing some of the wonderful things that you need to do to grow up in relationships, to grow, to evolve. But this is a great way to just make sure that each of you are incorporating what you need to have healthy relationships. That's the whole point of what we're doing here, is to make sure we have relationships with people that's mindful. The How to Be an Adult in Relationships, the 5 keys to mindful loving, is all about mindfulness. And mindfulness is our science. So thank goodness David Rico took our science and put it in a nice, beautiful book with great illustrations and quotes that we are able to go on to. So this is us returning to our original place. You know how I feel about that. So anyway, welcome you guys. Karen Millhouse, good evening. Latanya from Oakland, what's up? I know we are covering all across the country. We got California to New York, all the way from Canada, because let's see if Mr. Vibe, Dr. Vibe is coming in here from Canada, all the way down south to Florida and Alabama and everybody there in between in the Midwest. So I just want to welcome everybody today, and we are talking about practices, things you can do to deal with the ego. Remember, the point is not to have an inflated ego where you're arrogant. The point of being an adult in relationships is not to have a diminished ego where you feel like you're not good enough. The point is to center our ego on love, transparency, so that we can have a transparent relationship with ourselves and with everybody around us, because we got to be our authentic self. And our authentic self is based in healing. So anything that's unhealthy, anytime you see somebody do something unhealthy, just know that that is their ego operating. So that's what we're going to talk about. Hey, Burnsville, Minnesota, Sarah. All right, Minnesota. Is that Minnesota? MEN is Minnesota. Yeah, I think that's Minnesota. Gail from Fort Lauderdale. Oh my gosh, we're all over the place. Anyway, all over the place. If you guys have a copy, I have the paper copy of the book. The paper copy is How to Be an Adult in Relationships, the 5 Keys to Mindful Loving by David Rico. I'm reading from the paper copy, but if you have other versions of this book, you're just going to have to find whatever corresponds to page 208 in your world. So whatever corresponds to 208, I am on chapter 7, and it's at the top says practices. So today we're going to talk about practices. You got to get your journals out because I've got assignments for y'all today. Yes, I have assignments that I'm going to go over today for all of you guys to finish to work on. But before I start, there's 2 things I want to, well, actually, one thing I want to say for all of you guys on YouTube. I would like for each one of you to get your phones out, text the word LOVE to 87948, and be sure to do that so that you can get on my email, my text message list so that you'll know when I go live. Because normally I go live at 8:30, but sometimes I have to change it. And so you'll know exactly when I go live. Not only that, but you'll be here in Zoom and I can shout you out and I can answer your questions. So the Q&A, people who are welcome, who are here in Zoom, you can type the Q in the Q&A as we have our conversation tonight. If you have questions that come up, go to the Q&A and then I will answer your questions. But if you're not joining me on Zoom webinar, you won't be able to get your questions answered because I'm not going back and forth to Zoom and YouTube. Okay, so we are talking about practices today, and we are at the top of page 208. And I do want everybody, hopefully, I've given you guys enough time to get your journals out and something to write with your journals and something with your pens and something to write on. Something to write with and something to write on because we're doing some work today. Okay, practices for the ego. All righty. Going beyond either or. Okay, either or, going beyond. Our ego is so uncomfortable with uncertainty that it insists on seeing things in terms of black and white, win or lose. When we simply hold in our hearts and minds the opposites that face us, when we let go, let them coexist in us without choosing one over the other, we befriend ambiguity. Ambiguity is scary. Is ambiguity scary for some of you guys? Let me know. Do you live in the world where you need to know exactly what's going on? You need to know. Let me know. So, what this is saying, you got to go beyond knowing and trying to have everything certain. You need to you need to let go of that. Thank you, Karen, for being honest. He's challenging you today. He's saying you need to let go of right or wrong, good or bad, black or white, and embrace ambiguity. Okay, we befriend the ambiguity in our predicament. This is a form of mindful trusting. What does Linda say? Don't ask if you really don't want to know. Huh, that's interesting. Okay. Explain more, Linda, what you mean by that. This is a form of mindful trusting to be caught in the polarities devised by the arrogant ego is to live in fear. To be caught in the polarities devised by the arrogant ego, people who always know everybody got an answer, they're always certain about what's going on, is to live in fear. Egolessness, by contrast, means letting in all inclusive love to come through. That's how that's how you love like an adult. Not everything needs to be certain. And I know it's really interesting because one thing I learned when I was going through my trainings about trauma is ah, trauma creates a need for control. When someone experiences trauma or developmental trauma, situational trauma, the sense of safety and predictability of the world is shattered. And what happens is that the ego steps in and protects us. Remember, the ego is what we hide behind as a shield. So the ego protects us because that helps to create stability and a sense of self. And sometimes when we're hurt and it hasn't been processed, we become so avoidant of future harm. And one way to do this is by controlling reality through certainty. Uncertainty feels dangerous to a lot of us. Y'all know, I mean, today of all days, the day after United States has bombed some country that has declared they're going to get back at us, you know, things feel dangerous. And what we're going to want as a country is for things to be certain. We don't want to have an administration where things are kind of shaky like they seem to be now. Once we start tuning into what's happening in terms of this war that we're smacked in the middle of, we have included ourselves in this battle between Israel and Iran. So, uncertainty feels dangerous because it reminds the nervous system of the helplessness that's felt when you experience trauma. So, I think what he's saying here is that this ego and this black and white thinking, it's a way of adopting this rigid mental framework. Things are either good or it's either bad. People fit into one of two categories. They're either safe or they're completely unsafe. Either I'm winning and you're losing, or I'm losing and you're winning. When you see the world this way, you simplify the world into black and white thinking to reduce your anxiety. It's what you do to protect yourself. So the ego says, if I can clearly label everything, I'll know how to stay safe. I know. Thank you, Sonia. We did not enter this war. They did. We have no control over that. I mean, it's a very real sort of thing. We have no control over that. Yes, yes, yes. But how going beyond either or means transcending that, it means embracing ambiguity. It means getting out of this defensive stance where it's like either I'm in control or I'm being controlled. Y'all know people like that that always feel like they have to be in control and they have to be, I have to, it has to go my way. Either I'm right and you're wrong. Either I'm safe or I'm in danger. Y'all know people like that, like one way or another. That tells us that they are, what David Rico is saying, is that they're living in fear. People who need to be in control have a lot of fear in their life because they're trying to protect themselves from feeling powerless. To them, embracing ambiguity feels like I'm embracing unpredictability. And in my life growing up, things were very unpredictable. Could not predict things. I feel too vulnerable. I have to embrace right or wrong. And that's how I'm not able to move toward complexity because y'all know things are gray. you know, but you have to move toward complexity and uncertainty to rise above what he's saying is going beyond either or. I think this is important for us to know. So I do want to pause a little bit to talk about that because part of healing trauma when I work with clients who have to be in control of everything, and it, first of all, it destroys relationships. You can't be an adult in relationships if and have anything healthy with a partner if you feel like you have to be in control all the time. You know, being, the healing part of trauma involves helping your ego tolerate ambiguity because you have to learn that it's okay not to have all the answers. It's okay not to know everything. Safety is not always guaranteed, but it's possible. So you have to be able to know gray areas is not a sign of threat. And when you're in a place of mindfulness, that's what helps us. So I think befriending ambiguity is radical for a lot of people who've had unresolved past painful memories. I hate to use the word trauma so much, but befriending ambiguity is radical. It's healing. It gently dismantles rigid thinking, fear-based frameworks. Okay, trauma builds fear. So embracing ambiguity helps us to transcend the either or, and we can mindfully trust people. So Anyway, I think y'all got it. Ambiguity is uncomfortable, um, but you need to be able to embrace some of those things, befriending ambiguity. So that's what he's starting off with as a practice. This is a practice. This is something that you have got to get into to embrace ambiguity. So how y'all doing? Y'all embracing ambiguity? Well, today of all days, we need to learn how to do that. Have a space, um, mindful trusting, just knowing that things will always work out. It always will help us lose grip of this ego that's not working for us. So I think that's so important for us to do that. Okay, so once again, I want to say hello to everybody in YouTube world. If you like what I'm talking about today and you want to get the recordings, you can click and go to the website in the chat. I think I pinned it in YouTube. I also put it in the chat here. I put this in here for everybody. This is, you go to my website, draliciabookclub.com/inner circle, and that will take you to sign up to have access to all of the recordings. You also have access to lectures I did when I was teaching at my university last year about human development, stages of human development from conception all the way to death and dying. So you'll have a really good background and foundation of attachment theory, which is what all of this is based off of. So it gives you a little bit of background. It's a lecture I'm talking about there. So be sure to sign up there. And we're going to move on. We only went through the first paragraph, but I really think that that's important for us to learn about how trauma operates and past painful memories and things that we're scared of and anxiety. That's how we need to get past that. Okay, let's move on. Oh, he's giving us an example. Okay, for example, we when we let go of control, the either or of I have to be in charge or everything will fall apart. Everything rests on you. If you're not in charge, everything will fall apart. It changes to I let the chips fall where they may. That's a really interesting approach to things because it's relaxing. To be in charge of everything is stressful. You got to ensure the outcome is a certain way. That stuff is very stressful. So it's good. They're saying you can't do that. Let go of control because you can't really, it's an illusion anyway. You can't really control anything but yourself. We can't control what Donald Trump is doing in his office, in the office. I mean, yeah, we could protest and yeah, we could write our congressman, but we can't control what he does. We can only control what we do. That's it. And hope that it's influential, but you never know. You never know what happens. So let the chips fall where they may. You cannot control all the outcomes. Let that part go. This liberates us by changing our fear of spontaneity to a welcoming of fear and of whatever may happen beyond our control. You know what? I learned this in my life because sometimes one thing my dad used to tell me all the time, sometimes you win and sometimes you lose. And he used to tell me that all the time. He was like, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. It's okay if you lose. The next time around you'll win. And it helped me relax. And what was good about it is that sometimes I would lose and then I would think back on it and I'm like, you know what? That really wasn't meant for me anyway. And I'm like, I think looking back on it, I really never lost. I just changed direction sometimes. And I was like, wow, this direction was better than I thought it was. So I look back on losses and I say, huh, I really never lost. It really um, worked out in my favor, and situations turned out to be better than I ever hoped on the heels of what would be considered a loss. So there are no losses, and you can't control it anyway. So why waste your time? So that's good. Beyond our control, welcoming fear and of whatever may happen beyond our control. Make a chart in your journal. Okay, Get your journals out. Y'all, get your journals out. Get your journals out. Make a chart in your journal with either or in your life on the left and ways they can become both and on the right. Ha, that's interesting. The left. You think about left brain thinking versus right brain thinking. This makes sense. Okay. So on the left side of your journal, the piece of paper, um, make a chart in your journal with the either or in your life on the left side, either or. This is my left. This is probably your right, but it's my left. And make a list of all the either ors in your life. Either ors in your life. And on the right side, ways they can become both and. Both and on the right side. The right brain is I think the right brain is what's the right brain? Do y'all remember? I think the right brain is the creativity. And left brain, yeah, right brain is creativity, left brain is logic. I think that's what it is. So that's interesting. You have to look at and both and on the right side. Show this to your partner, huh? Or best friend. So you don't have to be in a relationship with somebody to be able to participate. You either show this to your partner or best friend and discuss ways to put both and into practice. So you stepping out of the trauma brain and you're stepping into the mindful brain. This is how you do it. This is how you heal yourself. What we're doing here is not therapy, but what we're doing here is creating therapeutic experiences. That's something totally different, right? So this is therapeutic. Okay, this is healing. You want to move into ambiguity and out of either or. And this is how you do it. Just writing that crap on down. Write it on down. That's simple. Simple, simple, simple. So he wants you to show it to your partner or friend or best friend and discuss ways to put the both and into practice. Yes. Okay. Anybody in the chat? What are y'all examples of either or? Mia is asking. Put it in the chat. I could think of a ton of stuff, but you know, oh my gosh. I can think of one. Lord, I'm thinking of something that my husband and I went through this week. Oh my gosh. He is okay. So I'm into this thing about how I want the house to be really neat. And so I want things to be put in a certain spot. And Boyce doesn't care. He wants things, he doesn't care. It can be kind of messy. And so we always get into these debates about where things need to be put. And in my mind, I'm like, this is the right way to put things. And in his mind, he's thinking, no, this is the right way to put things. And so I'm always like talking to him about, well, I'm right and you're wrong. And he's looking at me like, I'm right and you're wrong. But really, we're both right and wrong, So we always have to come up with ways. So we ended up having this conversation. It was really interesting. I ended up having a conversation with him. I said, okay, what is it that you want? And he said, I really would like to have, something there so that it'll help me run my business better. And I said, okay, it's an eyesore to me. Let's compromise and let's think of a way for both of us to win so that it's not one way or another. It's not a power thing between us. We listen to each other, and I promised him, I said, you know what, I'll come up with a way so that you can get your needs met and I can get my needs met, and it doesn't have to be either or, one way or this other way, and then we can come up with a way. And it's interesting when we talked it through, like we calmed down and everything. So that's just some of the things. Y'all just don't know. Being married to Boyce is really fun. It is never a dull moment. But it was just a good way for us to just kind of talk about it, and come up with a solution that's helpful for us. So that's a good one. Yeah, messy while cooking or clean as you go. I got to clean as I go. I can't be messy like that. Okay. You drive and I navigate GPS, or I drive and navigate goes too. Yeah, it's it's being able. Uh, you're organized. You like to be keep dating in separate homes. No, my God, that is so funny. Any examples y'all got on either or? Either we follow the list or schedule, or I don't participate. Gail, Gail, you like to have a list of things to do, or you got to tell me earlier, I'm not going to participate. Ah, okay. That's interesting. You have like demands. Okay. Either we follow the list, we follow the schedule, or I'm not participating. Is that how you are on vacations? Huh? When you go on vacation, you got to plan ahead and plan everything out ahead. Gail, is that how you are? You follow the list or I don't participate. So that's interesting. Those are examples of either or. And then on the other side, you need to say both and. How about I go on vacation? Oh, it's just an example. How about you go on vacation and you only plan ahead for one or two things, and then sometimes you just get there and see what you feel. See how you feel when you go on vacations. I know when I go on vacation, I tend to overpack because it's nothing like going on vacation. You get there and you realize you didn't bring, you looking around, you're like, I didn't bring the right clothes. Then you end up having to buy stuff when you get there. So sometimes, or one time I went to Europe in August. And for some reason, I was thinking, okay, I'm in Europe. It's August. I'll just bring this little tiny sweater. And I was freezing. I was like, oh my God, I didn't bring, I needed to bring an actual coat. Who knew? I thought August would be warm, but it wasn't. Me too. I'd rather have too many clothes than not enough. Yeah, when I travel, I always like to have like enough clothes, and I end up packing way too much. It's really embarrassing. But yeah, so anybody else have an example of either or? Um, let's see. I know some people who, what do you have? Put some examples in there. I'm thinking of that one just because we just you know, if I showed that list to Boyce and I wrote in there, I need to have this space to look this way, or it's not appropriate, he would probably agree with me. Either I order what I like when you choose the restaurant and pay, or we can just go Dutch. Ah, Sonia. Oh, that's interesting. Either or. So what would be both and for Sonia? Sonia said either I order what I like when you choose the restaurant, okay, and pay, or we can just go Dutch when you choose the restaurant. Huh? Either I order what I like when you choose the restaurant and pay. You choose the restaurant and pay, or we can just go Dutch. Huh? Huh? That's interesting. So if that person chooses the restaurant, you wouldn't pay. I think that's what you're saying. Or you just pay for yourself. I think that's interesting. What would be the both? Someone help Sonia out, try to figure out what would be both with that one. Oh, we'll think about some more. We both look at the menu ahead of time so we can be informed. Ah, I see. So we look at the menu, but not only that, you're looking at the menu to see how much food costs. How much is this meal going to be? And that will kind of tell you what to wear too. It tells you how to dress up and what to wear and what to expect. Looking at the menu ahead of time. See, I'm the kind of person I don't like to look at the menu ahead of time. I like to be spontaneous. I like to go to a restaurant and just be surprised by what's on the menu. I don't need to know what's on the menu. So maybe to challenge yourself, if you're the kind of person that always likes to look at the menu ahead of time, you need to know. Well, Karen, maybe a challenge for you is to pick a restaurant and don't look at the menu, just show up. How would that feel? If you embraced ambiguity and not know, how about that? So it's like either I know what's on the menu or I don't go ahead of time. So a way to embrace Yeah, I may not like what they serve, but it's ambiguity. You need to know. Y'all need to know what's on the menu. What if cow brains is on the menu? Sonya, cow brains is not on the menu. No, 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 no. Y'all are funny. I wish I could bring y'all in here. Y'all are hilarious. I say, I say, I have a challenge for Sonya and Karen. Who else in here? Everybody, let me know. Let me know if you're the kind of person that has to look at the menu before you go to a restaurant. There's always some, no, I don't need to know. Okay. No menu. Okay. Lori's like that too. Lori, I'm surprised. Sonya. Okay. Margaret's not like that. Okay. I need to know because I don't eat meat or shellfish. But that's okay. I prefer. Okay. Here's my challenge to all you guys that need to know what's on the menu. I challenge you all the next time you go out to eat to a new restaurant, challenge yourself not to look at the menu and tell yourself that you are embracing ambiguity and then come back and let me know how it is. You have to befriend ambiguity. Mindful trusting, y'all. I don't want to break the bank. I mean, how expensive can restaurants really be? Maybe, I mean, you could tell from well, you know what? You don't need to look at the menu. If you go on their website, sometimes it will say, it'll give you the dollar sign. So if it's like got like $3 and you know it's really expensive. If it's like $1 it's like $15 a meal, maybe $2 it's like maybe 30 or $40. I don't know how it is, but don't go to a restaurant where it's $3 signs. You know you're gonna be spending. Karen's in New York. Yeah. There's restaurants everywhere in New York. Just try it and see what happens. Surprise yourself. Mindful trusting, okay? And then come back and let me know how it goes. And then when you start feeling yourself getting a little anxious, this is where you can unhook from this sort of either or thinking. We need to push ourselves out of our comfort zones. Yes, get out of that, and it teaches your mind and body that the unknown isn't a threat. It will teach you that the unknown isn't a threat. It won't be cow's brains on the menu. And you can breathe, you can observe, you can respond rather than react. Maybe it is possible that nothing on the menu will strike you. Let go of ego's grip. And it could, give you a chance to have a moment of openness. Safety, get safety and ambiguity. You practice that more, then that will help you. Even if those who drive to work, this will be a good one. Any of you guys who drive to work every day, maybe one day just take an alternate route. Take a different route to work. Or maybe when you're coming home, you always take the same route, maybe take something different and see what happens. I don't know. So challenge yourself in that way. This is interesting. Y'all are funny. This is great. Okay, so that's your homework. So write that in your journals. That's your homework. Have a conversation with your partner, and I'll be asking you about it next week. So Sonia, I want to see you back in here. Karen, I want to see you back in here. Mia, all y'all, Jen, particularly you, Jen. I want to see y'all back in here, and let me know if you do something to surprise yourself and then embrace the ambiguity. How about that? Embrace ambiguity. Okay, so we got homework assignments. Life is getting too unpredictable. Yeah, so this is a great time to embrace ambiguity and to and to teach yourself. Yes, Mia. I drive the safe route through South Central LA, but I will embrace ambiguity. Is South Central still rough? I didn't think South Central. I went to South Central. Um, it didn't seem rough to me, but I don't know how it is. Maybe it's rough. It depends on the part. The part I went through in South Central, I was like, ooh, it's Compton or South Central. I'm like, ooh, this is gonna be Crenshaw or whatever. It wasn't, nothing was going on. I thought I was gonna get shot up or something, but maybe that was just the 80s. I don't know. It's just it's a stereotype. I felt very safe when I was there. Well, I'm from Gary, Indiana, so that's not, I don't know, probably Crenshaw probably ain't got nothing on Gary. Okay, anyway, let's move on. So we have our first homework assignment. Our first homework assignment is to write down all the things that you have to be certain about. It has to be either or. And then on the right side of the page, be sure to write down how you're going to embrace ambiguity, both and how you're going to embrace it. I got challenges for people in here. So we got some homework to do, and y'all got to get your homework done and come back. Come back in. Let me know how it goes. Okay. So we're making a chart. Show this to your partner. Show it to me. I'll be your friend to show it to the all y'all who don't have anybody to show it to. I want to see it. Okay. Discuss ways to put this into practice. Ask her or him to support in this venture since it will probably be scary for you. Okay. So it might be scary for you. Might be scary for you. So if you can't reach out to me, which you may not be able to, try to get a safe person that can help guide you through this. But I'll be your safe person. I'll be your safe person. Come back and let me know. You can do this. Okay, moving on. Perhaps every regret we have about the past is directly traceable to either or thinking and choices. Y'all got regrets? Do you really? Do people have regrets? I do. Regrets. We may feel shame as part of regret. The work is to acknowledge our shame and regret and forgive ourselves. That's heavy. Hmm. Imagine how much of your lively energy is crushed by old regrets. Boy, oh boy. Y'all try to go to bed at night and you think you're sleeping peacefully, and all of a sudden that one regrettable thing just haunts you when your mind is trying to relax. That ever happen to you guys? I have regrets. Woo! Okay, we got people with regrets. I have them too. So I usually do this with my with people in my practice, but maybe we'll do a regret exercise. Maybe I'll do a regret exercise with you guys. Imagine how much of your lively energy is crushed by old regrets. Boy, it creeps into your head, and you just like, dang, if I had a time machine, I would go back and change time. Will you give yourself your turn at happiness by doing the work it takes to get past all of that? Write examples of regrets from your past in your journal and discuss how you will get past them. Ask for support from others where necessary. I'm going to pause it here because I'm going to walk y'all through step by step how to process regrets because I see a lot of people in here that have regrets. Okay. Get your journals out. You got to turn the page because you got your one or you got two assignments already. So now we got assignment number 3. Here we go. Okay. Make a list of all of your regrets. Can y'all do that? If somebody would like to share one of your regrets we can use as an illustration, let me know. Type them in the chat if anybody feels comfortable giving an example of a regret. So write down every regret that comes to mind, big or small. Be honest. Don't censor yourself. You might want to include when you write them down. Sometimes regrets are things that you did that you're like, oh, never should have done that. Or you might have a regret related to things that you wish you had done and you just didn't do it. Words you said to someone that you wish you could take back, or words that you didn't say. Getting married. Margaret was like, getting married. Okay, we'll use Margaret's example since she was brave enough to put it in there. I told my boss off. It wasn't his fault. I was feeling sick and wanted a meeting, and he wanted a meeting. You wasn't in the mood for a meeting. I started investing at 16, but my father told me I couldn't do it because I was a girl, so I stopped for a long time. Mia, hopefully you get with my husband, Dr. Boyce, and get into all of his investment stuff. That would be really nice. Oh my goodness, you had a father tell you not to do it because you're a girl. Yeah, old school fathers think like that sometimes. They do, they do, they do. That's not, so we now know better. Okay. Opportunities that you missed, relationships. Yes, you're investing again with Dr. Boyce. Wonderful, wonderful. Okay. So relationships mishandled. Okay. Don't judge yourself. Just write it down. Gender bias. Oh my gosh. Okay. So for each one of the, okay, don't make a long list. Just write down four. Who's that said they had lots of regrets? Lori has a lot of regrets. Okay, just write four down because I think if you write more than four, it's a little overwhelming. So write four regrets, the one that really haunt you. And okay, everybody got that in their journal. So that's step one is to write down your regrets. Everybody in YouTube world, how you doing? Okay, write it down. Write down four. Step two is to next to your regret, write down how you felt at the time you made that regrettable decision. So, Margaret, when you got married, write down the feeling you had when you got married. And it's a regrettable thing, but how did you feel in that moment writing when you made that regrettable decision to get married? Karen, when you told your boss off, it wasn't his fault. How were you feeling in that moment? She said she was feeling sick. What did you believe in that moment? Okay, Mia, when your dad told you you couldn't invest because you were a girl, how did you feel in that moment when you stopped investing? Sonia getting pregnant when I was a teen, finding out about the pregnancy right after I was accepted into Alvin Ailey Dance School. Oh my goodness. Yes. So, Margaret, you did feel love. Okay. At that moment, I was gaslit. Yes. Sonia, you really need to write that down because Alvin Ailey, getting accepted at Alvin Ailey is remarkable. Yes. So, write down how you felt. Were you scared? Were you angry? Were you confused? Were you lonely? Were you desperate? You felt loved at that time. Sometimes we got to be compassionate with ourselves. You did the best you could in that moment because you did feel loved. But we all know that love is not enough to get married to somebody. Do we need to marry everybody we love? No. So good. I'm glad you write down you felt loved. At that time, you made the decision because I think it really helps you see that you're human. You're human. Okay. So first step is to write down four. Second step is to write down how you felt. Step number three is to also write about if only. So you can say, if only I had waited. Yes, Margaret, you felt loved in that moment, but maybe there were some elements that you didn't see. Maybe there were some red flags that you overlooked. Maybe something happened. Write down if only. If only I had known what? If only I had waited. If only I trusted myself more. If only I loved myself more. If only I had spoken up. Write down this because the point of that is to get to your needs that were unmet. Maybe you needed to feel love in that moment because maybe you felt deprived, Margaret. Maybe you felt deprived. Um, how dare he ask for this meeting my first day back at work after being in the hospital? Yeah, you were, oh my gosh. So you were annoyed, Karen. You were annoyed. If only I told him to wait till tomorrow. Yes. because you had needs that were unmet. You needed to, you talk about being away from work and that first day you come back, things are chaotic coming back. Yeah, excellent. These are good. So, if only, so write that down. And then think about the patterns. Some patterns are going to emerge when you start noticing. Some patterns will emerge. There's a deeper wound with some of these regrets. If only I had the courage to follow my intuition, I'd be a lot wealthier now. Yes, you didn't follow your intuition. If only, if only. So, maybe you wanted to be perfect. Maybe you had a fear of rejection. So you'll notice some patterns always. Every time I work with clients on this exercise, stuff always emerges. It's really interesting. That's how you get to the root of the issue instead of like thinking about you've done things on the surface. Okay. So, the next step is we got to make amends. How about that? So the next thing that you write down is how do you make amends, if it's even possible? How do you make things right? Saying, I should have said no. I should have asked for help. I should have been kinder to my boss. Maybe making it. This is not about shame, but this is about clarifying your values and building a moral compass from this regrettable experience. How can I now apologize? How can I take responsibility? How can I make it right? How can I treat others in this way? So, even though you can't fix your past, you can still honor the lesson. So, be sure to write down the last thing you need to do to make amends is to make a lessons learned. What lesson do you now know? I'm interested. Karen, what lesson do you learn? I should have trusted my gut. That's the lesson I learned. I learned that pleasing other people at my own expense sometimes can lead to resentment. Sometimes you learn that if only I had paid attention to the red flags. Yes, Margaret. You felt loved in that moment, but you didn't pay attention to the red flag. If only I had more love for myself and my body. Yes, Sonia, that's beautiful. I learned that my silence sometimes can be harmful. These are all of the things, these are your personal truths, which is the foundation of your future choices. If only. These are the lessons that you learned. Yeah, and then you can start saying, okay, today I'm going to make a commitment. I'm going to speak up in meetings. I'm going to call and schedule lunch with somebody that I want to reconnect with. I want to set boundaries where I need to set boundaries. I'm not going to ignore red flags anymore. And so y'all get the gist. Going through this exercise of processing past regrets and committing to making actionable steps. I'm going to set boundaries now. I'm not going to ignore red flags. Yeah, I think it's a good exercise. I'm going to speak up. I think regrets is not a flaw, but it's a signal from your wiser self to have compassion for yourself, but you can also move on. But you can only move on when you face what you've done fully. So I don't know. I think that'd be great for you to y'all to do this exercise. So y'all got a lot of homework today. Lots and lots of homework today. And we only got through the first section. The first section. Yeah, I've been thinking about that one a lot. And he was a good guy. Yeah, Karen, you gotta show some appreciation. Make amends. You can even tell him, hey, I went off on you and I didn't mean to, and I want to make amends. I'm sorry about that. Apologizing. Something simple. Yeah. So homework. Y'all got homework to do. We back in school. We back in school. You black on the platform. Jen is black on the platform. Okay. So we still on page 208. We ain't got very far. Um, okay, we'll get through the next section before we end today. Oh my God, it's already the bottom of the hour. Since it's the bottom of the hour, I want to say hello to everybody in YouTube world. Again, if you text the word love, LOVE, to 87948, you can come into the chat and we can talk about our homework together. But if not, we are just reflecting on this book, How to Be an Adult in Relationships, The Five Keys to Mindful Loving with David Rico. We have done dozens and dozens and dozens of videos on this, going through each one, slowing it down. It's one thing to read this book on your own, but it's another thing to read it as a group where we can digest and we can transform ourselves. And today we're learning about how we're going to let go of our ego, how it's holding us back. And we are doing some healing today. We're getting out of black and white thinking. We're getting out of either or, control or being controlled. Either you're being controlled or you're controlling. Either or, we're stepping out of that and we're embracing ambiguity. Today of all days, we really need to understand how to do that. And so, if you want to get the recordings, here's my website. I'm going to put it in the Zoom chat. And I think it's on YouTube. Let me go to YouTube and put it in the chat here for YouTube. If you want to get the recordings and if you want to join us here in Zoom World to get your questions answered, go and visit that and you can, that's how you get access to all of the recordings. Okay. You're surrounded by controllers. Well, Tia, even if, or is it T? I think it's Tia, probably. If you're control or surrounded by controllers, they can't control you. They think they can, but ultimately they cannot control you. So I think that's one thing we need to keep in mind is that um, people think they in control and they not. They living in a fantasy world. You can't. What you can do is open up your voice and have agency and be assertive and say, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to do it. I assume you're an adult. So if you're an adult, you can really put boundaries around that and say, this conversation is over. If you're trying to force me to do something that I don't feel in my soul that I really want to do, I'm not going to do it. Yeah, that's my work to do. Yes, Tia, it's your work to do. You can do it. Thanks for joining us, Tia. And today is the day, no more. Today is the last day that you will allow somebody to control you. So there we go. All right. Committing to nonviolent love. Oh my gosh. Okay, page 208. Committing to nonviolent love. Hey, anybody in danger? Okay, let me know. You can also contact me, coachingwithdralicia.com. So if anybody feels like they are need to talk to me, I'll put my website in the chat, copingwithdralicia.com. If you want to talk, let me hit copy and go to YouTube and drop it in the chat for YouTube, coachingwithdralicia.com. There we go. It's there in the chat. Make sure to contact me if you want to talk. But of course, if you're in a very violent situation, I just want to say call 911. Anybody put their hands on you? Yes, blink twice. Yes, Jen, thank you. Blink twice. Anything like that happens to you, be sure you know where to go to get help. Anyway, so we are going to talk about committing to non-violent love. Violence is also in the words that you say, by the way. And okay, let's read on. Assertiveness, like any perfect act, leaves no wake. Assertiveness, like any perfect act, leaves no wake, as the Zen saying tells us. Ego, by contrast, leaves a grudge behind and creates a feud. Ego leaves a grudge behind and creates a feud. So if you're fighting with your partner all the time, that's ego talking. If you're listening to your partner and you're trying to compromise, that's love talking. So when me and my husband were talking about where to put this table and things getting messy, our egos were clashing. But when we sat down and I said, okay, boys, what is it that you want? And he was able to explain it. I explained to him what I wanted. And I said, look, let's come up with something that works for both of us. And that's how we dealt with it. It's just an illustration, you guys, about how you can just let go of the ego and work toward things together. Because what David Rico is saying is that ego, by contrast, leaves a grudge behind and creates a feud in your household. And, huh, assertiveness, like any perfect act, leaves no wake. I think, like, I think what they're saying is that um, it leaves no residue. Like, you don't have hurt feelings, leaves no wake. That means it's not like somebody's bitter or they have regrets or there's this power struggle. There's energy behind leaving no wake. That means there's no ripples. You know how you have a conflict with somebody and you say things that's out of line. That's the wake. It's not worth feuding. Thank you, Jen. It's not worth feuding over a table. So ego, by contrast, leaves a grudge behind and creates a feud. When you're able, and then he begins with assertiveness. So when you act assertively, not aggressive, and definitely not from a place of passivity, you're standing in your truth without needing to crush the other person. You don't want to punish the other person. You want to say yes, or you want to agree to something or not agree to something. You speak up with love without the ego attachment. How I have to be wrong. We ain't seeking revenge. We're not guilting. We're not manipulating somebody. So I think the wake means no emotional residue that happens. You want nice, clean actions. Assertiveness, like any perfect act, leaves no wake. You know, it leaves no emotional issues and residue and regrets. It leaves none of that. So I think that's what they're having. Yeah, loving my boundaries. Don't bring no drama over here. Yes, yes. I love that. We keeping score. If you're in a relationship with somebody and you feel like you have to keep score, you feel like you have to always be right, you feel like you have to get revenge or retaliation. Mm-mm. That doesn't, what happens is that you have all of this emotional baggage and grudges and feuds with somebody. That doesn't work. Okay, so that's how he's talking about committing to nonviolent love. Okay. In the Sermon on the Mount, the Christian recipe for the disillusion of ego, Jesus addresses this question directly when he says, if someone compels you to go 1 mile with him, go with him too. Wonder what he means by that. A healthy person simply learns to speak up when injustice occurs and attempts to rectify it. That takes courage to speak up. Focusing on the objective fact, injustice, not on a personal interpretation of it, an affront. The sense of affront betrays the presence of a neurotic ego investment. In fact, the word affront is like the word turf, has no meaning for anyone who has a functional adult ego. Such a person fends off insults nonviolently, reckoning them as information about the aggressive anger of the other person. Those frustrations might even engender compassion. Make a commitment to forego a style of retaliation and to look for ways to create reconciliation. No retaliation, reconciliation. Because if you retaliate against somebody and you try to get even with somebody, yeah, it may hurt the other person, but did you know that you yourself is equally affected by that? And a lot of people try to do it legally. They try to take you, sue you, and they spend all this money in court. Courts are full of people who want to retaliate against somebody. They feel like they've been done wrong and they want to get even, and they spend all their little money going to court trying to get even on somebody. No, this is saying you need to reconciliate, try to deal with the issue on your own instead of retaliating. And isn't that what courts try to encourage both parties? You know, the court's like, I don't want to weigh in on this. I My ruling is that the two of you sit down and try to figure out how to solve this on your own. You ever heard that? I think that's what courts are talking about. The court, what the judge is trying to say to you is take your ego out of it and try to come up with a solution that works. Make this commitment silently first within yourself and then aloud to your partner. So what is he saying? This whole thing, if someone compels you to go 1 mile with him, go with him too. He's talking about letting go. He's talking about letting go of ego, letting go of negativity. Yeah. And the only thing in being negative is really, not what you're supposed to do anyway. That's interesting. Letting go of ego. Okay. Moving on. We're on page 209. The indignant ego is sly. Ooh, it's tricky, tricky. It may seek indirect reprisals for being hurt or disappointed. Well, in my world, this is like being passive aggressive. You ever had somebody mad at you? They want to admit that they're mad at you. So they do little things like they'll forget to do something for you or something. Passive aggressive behavior. Okay. Um, you might actually find yourself hoping that your partner will experience misfortune in life. If you catch yourself hoping for this kind of indirect retribution, admit to it and ask for forgiveness. You mad at your partner and you just like, ooh, I wish a hammer falls on him. You think of something that just acknowledge it and say, you know what, this is me being mad. Oh God, forgive myself. Do that in your head. Sonia's like, yes, I like that. Thank you, Sonia. I love you too, Sonia. Okay. If you catch yourself hoping for this kind of indirect retribution, admit to it and ask for forgiveness. Such heartfelt humility can free you from seeking this subtle form of retaliation. It's subtle. Though this admission might be embarrassing for you, egoless love blooms from just such self-disclosures. So you're only admitting it to yourself. So it's not like it's that bad. Okay, so they end this section with a quote from Luke. There's a lot of Bible quotes today. Do good to those who hate you. Bless those who curse you. Pray for those who mistreat you. Ah, I don't know. I feel like, is that possible to do? That's hard to do, you guys. Do good to those who hate you. People who hate you, you still got to do good. I don't know. Bless those who curse you. Pray for those who mistreat you. What is he saying? It frees them. Okay. They hate you more. Yeah, they will hate you more. Well, I don't know. Let me try to figure out. I don't think that Bible quote, first of all, there's many different interpretations of a Bible quote. He says, what he might be saying is love your enemies, do good to those who hate you, bless those who curse you, and what else? Pray for those who mistreat you. I think it just seems impossible and naive and almost self-destructive to do stuff like that. But I think if we look deeper, it is talking about freedom. and not being controlled by anger. And I think it's not about being passive, but there's a strength in it's for the slave. Yeah, but it's funny how when you resist the urge to retaliate against somebody, it that takes strength. It's easy to kind of retaliate, but if you refuse to mirror hate with hate, if you refuse to mirror violence with violence, y'all see that video of the lady on Southwest Airlines who was upset because she was sitting next to this chubby lady and she started spitting on her and pulling her hair. And I was looking at the video. Anybody see that? Let me know in the chat if you see that. I don't know. This lady was like attacking her, and I was watching this. There's a video, Southwest Airlines, of a lady who was just losing it, and she was like trying to fight the lady next to her, calling her fat and all of this. She was having like a psychotic break, really. And then she started pulling the person's hair. Oh my gosh, y'all look it up. It's on social media. And and the lady never retaliated. She just sat there and kind of removed her hand from her hair. Yes, Karen, you saw that. How'd you feel, Karen, when you saw that? Were you like, if that had been me, I would be like beating that lady to a pulp. But others, yeah, others came in and kind of like had to peel this lady off of her. But I just remember thinking like, golly, that poor lady, you know, um, how did she not retaliate? Like I would have been trying to beat that up. Loving your enemies, that's what she was doing. I don't know. I don't know. Refuse. I think it's important that not retaliating means, it's saying that you are refusing to become the things that you despise. I don't know. Personally, if anybody's been listening to some of the things that I say, I think that a lot of the quotes in the Bible has to do with what happens in yourself. And I think that a different explanation of that could be sometimes your enemies is your inner negativity. Sometimes your enemies is your inner negativity. That's your enemy. Sometimes your enemy are thoughts that come up in your head talking about you're not good enough. I'm unlovable. That's the enemy. So I think when they say love your enemies, in my book, I interpret to mean that stop judging yourself, stop living in fear, stop living in shame, stop living in insecurity. Give yourself compassion instead of rejecting yourself. Do not fight the negativity, hold space for them. That's what I think. Sometimes living in us is this resistance, is you want to sabotage relationships and sabotage things. And it's that voice in your head that drags you down and makes you feel stuck. That's your enemy. And I think you need to speak to yourself with kindness instead of shame. And that to me is how you respond to the hater inside of you. You sometimes people hate. Bless those who curse you. Well, those beliefs that you carry with yourself, you're too much. You always fail. You're broken. You know, I think bless those curses is to consciously reframe them. Tell yourself, okay, I may have been hurt in the past, but I'm healing today by coming to the book club. My story is not over. I'm going to process my regrets and I'm going to be better as a person. I'm going to learn from past mistakes that I made that haunt me. Is not going to take over my life. I'm going to live my life with the lessons learned and make amends. So I think that's what's important. Your story is not over. You are allowed to grow beyond what you've been told. So these are the things, don't neglect yourself, participate in self-care. I don't know. I think that's what that means. I think we're going to end here because it's the top of the hour, going to the top of the hour, and I feel like I want to see what's going on with the NBA championships because I love sports. I love sports. Anyway, so listen up. If you're enjoying these conversations, you want to go deeper into the book club, I got lectures and tools about human development that I've created special for you guys. It's the Inner Circle, and I'm gonna type in my website for everybody, and then that's my website. Let me see if I can get Dr. Alicia Books copy here. Let me type it into the chat here. You can have access to the recordings. You can, yeah, there it is. It's in there. Let me put it into YouTube. Let me put it into the YouTube channel. Okay, so that's the chat to my inner circle. You can go there and this is where we integrate. This is where we integrate. If you're serious about your journey, you want support along the way, I'd like for you to join us. If you missed a session, if you missed a week, and you just want to revisit some of the earlier content, go to the website and you have all the videos there laid out with the book. You can take the book and go through it. You can slow down. You can absorb everything that we've been talked about. And I can't wait to see you there on the with the inner circle. I will see you guys next week. Let me see. Do I have something going on next week? I like to look at my cat. Nope, I got nothing going on. And I will see you guys on the 29th, June 29th. And y'all get your homework done. I'll be calling y'all out. Y'all don't get your homework done. I'll be shaming you. No, no shame. It's okay. Yeah, but try to do your best to do something different, embrace ambiguity, and process your regrets. Okay? All right, everybody. I will see y'all next week. Bye bye.